Okay, hello. I've never done this before, so let's hope that it all goes smoothly and that we don't have some major technical problems. People are often writing into me and asking questions about this and that, and it is simply too much, too many questions every day, so I thought I'd make something open to all, because I tend to get the same kind of questions from everybody, and it simply eats too much time answering everybody individually. So I hope that some of you have signed in and are ready to ask some interesting questions and simply have a chat. We'll just give it a few minutes while people sign in, and if questions start coming, I will begin. So I guess the idea is that people, if they have anything to ask, they simply post it in the comments, and I will have one of my students here read it out to me so I'm not too distracted reading the comments, and then I'll try to talk about it if I have anything to say on the subject. It's pretty early here. I'm still trying to become functional. Usually I'd be sitting in meditation at this hour, so it's kind of strange even to be talking.
So some preliminary questions that we had. The first one is, how do you relate the meditation and Tai Chi training methods?
Okay, people a lot of people know that I practice meditation, so they ask me about how the two mix, whether I think they must be united, how they relate, and all kinds of things like this all the time. The truth is, I keep them separate in the sense that I practice them separately and I teach them separately. When I'm practicing meditation, I'm practicing meditation. When I'm practicing Tai Chi, I'm practicing Tai Chi. When students come to me, depending on what they desire, I will teach them accordingly. Some people are more interested in mental development, so I teach them meditation. Some people are more interested in Tai Chi, so I teach them Tai Chi. One increases the other. Tai Chi Chuan is not only physical development. We must develop the body, the Qi, and the mind. The mind leads everything. So if the mind is not developed, if the mind is scattered, distracted, and broken, the Qi and the power will also be scattered and broken. So meditation, no matter the school, no matter the method, the fundamental quality is it teaches you to calm the mind, to become still. This calmness allows you to see clearly. That clear seeing is the aspect of Shen that allows you to have Ting. If you don't have Ting, we all know your Tai Chi Chuan falls to bits. So without the calm mind, it's very difficult to have any Ting, to know what's happening, to listen to your partner, to listen to your own body. The meditative qualities of mind also give you enhanced focus, okay? So the enhanced focus increases the power of your Yi. So your Yi and Ting become more powerful from meditation practice. In fact, it is my personal opinion that the superior way to practice both Yi and Ting is through seated practice rather than through Tai Chi Chuan. However, there are masters in the past that have developed all the skills, all the mental powers that come along with Tai Chi Chuan simply from practicing Tai Chi Chuan. Therefore, seated meditation is not 100% necessary. It's simply, in my experience, the most efficient way to achieve the skills. Now, you can't spend your whole day sitting on the meditation mat, and you can't spend your whole day doing Tai Chi Chuan form. So I find it more efficient to practice both. They both feed each other. And when I'm tired physically, I can do more meditation. When I'm stiff from sitting on the mat, I can do more Tai Chi Chuan. In this way, it's more balanced. Okay, next question.
Next question from James Leon is, could you suggest a reasonable daily routine?
Well, if you're practicing my method, then I suggest you simply follow the method. Now, the problem is that there are so many techniques and gongs and trainings that it becomes too much. You can't do them all in one day. So depending on what level you're on is what you should focus on. That said, I almost always teach any class or train in the same format. First thing is always open the body. Excuse me. So that means some kind of joint opening, loosening up, freeing the body. We must do this before every session. Then we always go into standing post, practicing to sync the chi, to correct your structure, to sync the chi. This is simple. If you don't sync the chi, you have no chi to mobilize, no power to make, nothing to do in Tai Chi Chuan. So this is true on the large scale in terms of syncing the chi is the first thing you do. And over the years, it's number one. Then after you've sunk the chi, you learn how to mobilize the chi and make the powers. This is also true on the microcosm of your daily training in that in every lesson, the first thing you do is sync the chi. So I tend to teach and practice opening the body, then standing practice. So this is your basic routine. After that, you have to start moving and mobilizing the chi and the waves of soul inside the body. You can do this with Song Gong or form practice. So depending on your time, I recommend opening the body, standing practice, Song Gong practice, then form practice. That's a complete session. If you have more limited time, you can choose either form or Song Gong. Now, some people say, how about if I practice small sections throughout the day, 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there? Yeah, it's okay. But honestly, it doesn't compare to nailing down, knuckling down, and practicing for a couple hours straight, or at least an hour. 1 hour straight training is far more beneficial than 3 20-minute sessions throughout the day. You start to really get into it and start to internalize and become deeper. When you do small sessions, it takes time for the mind to absorb into the body and for the qualities to arise out of the soul. Let's say it takes 15 minutes and you're only spending 20, that means only 5 minutes are truly in that state. Where if you do the hour, you get 45 minutes in that state. Now, after you've done these practices, which I call the fundamental basics, basics does not mean beginner practice, but everything you do should be based on this, no matter what level you're at. That's what your training is. Then you can do some partner training if you want. It is my personal view that solo training is far more important than partner training. Only as an extra bonus on the side do you do your partner training. When it comes to partner training, you should be working on drills rather than free push. One of the biggest problems I've found in Tai Chi Chuan circles around the world is that they tend to play push hands. They meet up with their buddy and it's like a social event and we all sort of touch each other and wiggle around and it's lovely and it's fun and we laugh and we drink tea, and they're not training Tai Chi Chuan. They're playing push hands. So training is doing drills. The drills build the skills. Playing push hand or free push is testing what skills you have developed from your training. The problem is very simple. When you play all the time, you're not actually training at all. You should train most of the time, namely do the drills, and play occasionally to test where you're at. So every week, 2 weeks, whatever, you grab a buddy or a friend or even better, someone you don't know, and you do some free push just to see how you're going and to see if you can apply the drills and the methods that you've been training to develop. If in your free push you do not see the shapes of the form, you do not see the 8 energies, there's no Pung Lu Ji An, you're just doing some kind of wiggly, sticky hand thing, then you know that your training is not working enough. Now you must be careful of the habit to always blame everything else and not look at yourself. We have to look at ourselves and say, okay, I am not training the method sincerely, and go back and train the methods rather than play. So opening the body, standing to sync the chi, Song Gong or form, preferably both, to mobilize the chi, moving the chi throughout the body, and then partner exercises. That would be what I would recommend. Okay, if there's any other questions?
Yes, some more meditation questions. Sarah Tanier says, what does teaching meditation entail? Ideally, do you just give a one-off lesson, or are there skills that keep you adding on throughout a meditation practice? Another meditation question that maybe we can put together with that one is it a good idea to practice standing meditation for a long time before you start the form?
Okay, I'm going to start with the second one and lead on to the former question. Firstly, standing post, like we do in Tai Chi and other internal martial arts, is not meditation. It's commonly translated as standing meditation, but in my opinion, this is a complete error. It is a najin. It is not meditation. Standing practice, yes, you're physically still, but we're looking for internal movement, namely the sinking of the chi. If it was meditation, we would be looking for internal stillness. So it's important to separate these in your understanding and in your practice. Standing post, the najin, does not fulfill the same qualities. You do not develop the same qualities as meditation proper. Okay? So standing practice, or the najin, the question is, should we do it for a long time, I believe?
Yes.
No, definitely not. In my experience with everybody that I've met, the people that stand for extended periods of time are always, this might not be the case, but is with everybody that I've met, always super stiff. I've never met somebody that stands for long periods of time that is released and so, or even relaxed. They're always stiff. Now, it's quite easy to understand. If you stand for a long time, you get stiff. So in my opinion, there's a point of diminishing returns with standing post, which is around 20 to 30 minutes. I never recommend my students to do any more than that. We tend to do 25 minutes per session. Quality of release and sinking the chi makes the exercise very intense. If you can stand for a long period of time, you're usually not sinking the chi. This is my experience. So I've had many students that write to me online. They want to come and train. They tell me how they train this style or that style, and they stand 2 hours a day. I'm like, cool. They come along and they train, and in a couple of days after they understand my method, they can't stand 15 minutes. After 10 or 15 minutes, they're on their bum, burnt out, can't tolerate. So it's more important to do the najin, because it's not meditation, and to have the inner movement of sinking the chi, quality, to build the quality, rather than to extend the practice and be mentally blasé, mentally empty, or drift mentally, or just stand there waiting for the power to come. You must remember that a checkout chick working in a supermarket stands there relatively still for 10 hours a day, and they do not have kung fu. Standing still does not give you kung fu. It's the inner work that gives you the kung fu. So it's not about doing it over a long period of time. It's about doing it correctly. And if you do it correctly, even 5 minutes will be quite trying. And the better you get at it, the more bitter it becomes. Many people make the mistake and think that, oh, I'm getting it now. My standing's improving. It's becoming easy. So they're like, Sifu, I've really got it now. When I stand, I just feel like a floaty cloud or something like that. And this is exactly the wrong direction. This is exactly what you don't want to happen. That means you're no longer growing. You're no longer increasing the sinking. You're not increasing the release in your body. You've drifted off into comfort zone. That's when it's easy to stand for a long period of time. So if you're going to stand around like that for an hour or 2 hours, well, preferably, personally, I'd rather have a snooze and lie down and have a sleep if you're just going to waste 2 hours. Training should be bitter in every moment. You should be working and really working and feeling something happening in every moment. If you're just losing time, that's not training. That's just having a break. The former part of the question was, can you repeat it, please?
The other part is from Sarah Tanier. What does teaching meditation entail? Ideally, do you just give a one-off lesson, or are there skills that you keep adding on throughout the meditation practice?
Well, I assume that this is referring to my self-teaching meditation, because of course everybody does it differently. I could say without exaggeration that I know hundreds of meditation methods. I definitely don't believe it's a one-off answer. There is not one technique that fits every person. There is not one technique that you practice for your entire meditation life. There are fundamental skills and more advanced skills that are built upon the fundamentals, and this goes on and on and on for a very long time. So, no, certainly not one. However, the problem is with meditation students, just like every other student, is that they are cursed with the monkey mind, distracted, and cannot settle down. So this inability to be calm and to settle in the mind manifests in their desire to learn hundreds of meditation methods or to try something else all the time. So the teacher gives them a method, let's say following the breath, very classic method, probably the most universal method in the sense that works for the most people. The student sits down and practices it, poorly usually, and then they're like, it's not working, I'm still thinking I can't meditate because I think so much, or they think that the meditation method is making them more distracted because now suddenly they're seeing their thoughts which they couldn't see before. Because they were permanently distracted, now they're starting to look at themselves and it's like, whoa, God, I'm neurotic. It's like, yeah, you are. So they say to the teacher, oh, can I have a different one? Breath meditation doesn't work for me. This is just another manifestation of always wanting the next stimuli. It's just the same monkey mind happening now in the practice. So for this reason, when I start to teach meditation, I give them a simple method and I leave them with it. I don't want to over-instruct them. I don't want to stimulate the questioning mind. I don't want to stimulate the imagination or anything. I simply want them to calm down. This is the first step of meditation. If you can't calm the mind, then the other qualities that you develop later with meditative skills cannot grow, will not grow, and therefore even contemplating them is completely irrelevant. So the first thing to learn how to do is simply to shut up and to stop. You must stop. So this is my instruction, stop. When you sit down, simply stop. Whatever comes up, simply stop. When you question it, simply stop. When you want something new, stop. When you want to get up off the mat, stop. Whatever happens, simply stop and rest on the meditation. With time, you become skilled at resting the mind or having stillness of mind. Then yes, there are many methods, depending on what you want to develop, what path you want to take, what skills you want, what your goal is. General questions are hard to answer in this case because everybody has a different goal. Are you practicing meditation for release from suffering? Are you practicing meditation for abilities? Are you practicing meditation to improve your Tai Chi Chuan? To work with the Qi, what is your goal? That dictates what the exercises will be. Okay.
Rick Weaver had a related question. Should a student set goals for him or herself other than disciplined daily practice?
I guess that means should you have a goal like in 1 year I've achieved this, in 2 years I've achieved that. I guess that's what it means. I can't answer that directly. Basically, it depends on your personality type. So, me? No. My goal is to get up and do the training today. Now, I have overall skill goals that I want to achieve, but I don't put time limits on them. The reason is there's no time when you achieve them. For example, by the end of the year, I'm going to achieve Song. No, there's no point. Song is continuous. Master Wang, near his deathbed, said that Song is endless. So this is the same with all the skills. You develop them gradually over time, and they develop deeper and deeper and deeper. So yes, you need goals, but I would not put a time on them and focus them and make them short. A goal like, yes, I want to develop sticking, I want to develop release, I want to be more upright, I want my form to be more connected, I want to learn to Fa Jin, that's a pretty normal one. General goal, yes. Time-specific goals, no. Having the goal for each day of training is far more beneficial for your progress. So my goal might be that I'm going to stand for 20 minutes every day. That is a skillful goal. An unskillful goal would be more like, I'm going to have the chi sunk by next month. That would be an unskillful goal. For starters, it's difficult to make a goal of somewhere you've never been. If you had to walk to the next town, but you'd never been there, you didn't know how far it was, how could you have a goal of how many minutes it would take to walk there? Very difficult. So people try to make a goal about something that they don't know what it is. They've never been there. Now, the intellectual ideas of what these skills and what these qualities are inevitably every time, 100% of the time, absolutely incorrect. No matter how close you are, you're still miles away, because nothing is like we think it's going to be until you achieve it. Our ideas are simply fabrications in the mind based on our present experience, which is nothing like the real experience, because by definition, it's something new. So goal setting, I definitely believe in goals and driving forward. However, I don't think having time limits or anything like that, or even knowing what the goal really is essentially skillful. Rather, the goal should be about what you do and not what you get out of it, or as I always say, focus on the causes and do not focus on the effect. If you focus on the causes, you will achieve the effect. If you try to achieve the effect, you have altered the causes and therefore you achieve the wrong effect. This is a very, very common error. Okay.
Andre Ricardo says, is the power developed through standing or forms? I mean, I don't have a partner, so will I be able to develop power alone?
Okay, well, standing and forms are both solo practice. Standing develops sinking the chi. It gives you the units of energy. Without this kind of practice, we would say you have no chi from the Tai Chi Chuan point of view. Of course, you have the chi that is keeping you alive, but that is not the same thing. The chi that we use in Tai Chi Chuan is developed standing through sinking the chi. Forms teaches you how to move that chi inside the body, how to mobilize it in specific ways that generate the powers or the jins. So the form, the set, is a set of forms or postures, each one which acts like a ritual to enliven a certain mobilization of chi in the body. One would be pong or ward off, and so on. So which one develops power? Well, standing gives you the units of power, and practicing form gives you the expression of that power. However, it's not the same as applying the power. That's what practice is for. If I was only training on my own, of course, I would endeavor to do both, as I said earlier, with the routine, opening the body, standing, and then doing the form. For beginner students, the standing and the sunggong and this kind of thing is vital, and if you're going to skip something, you should skip the form. For advanced students, the form is the most important. In my training, I only do form. So it is my opinion that in the beginning there are many, many things you do. Many gongs, many fundamentals, all the jibin gong, standing, stretching, coordination drills, all these things which are giving you different facets. When all those facets come together, then you only do one thing, and that is the form. The form is the most advanced training. In the West, we tend to think of the form as beginner training. However, form is the advanced training. The reason why this happens is because it's been taught in a way for so long where people walk into a class and the first thing they're taught is, okay, you're going to learn this form, and in about a year you're going to know the whole form, blah, 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 like that. Traditional training, you might train for a year before you even learn the first posture of the form. Doing a jibin gong, doing fundamentals, building a body capable of doing Tai Chi Chuan. The problem is that our body that we're born with, or even worse, our body that we have built through doing external trainings, through doing other athletics, or through rotting on the couch, cannot do Tai Chi Chuan, period, the end. It will never be able to do Tai Chi Chuan. We must transform our body into something more suitable for the art. This is done through the jibin gongs of the style, so that we change our body. When we transform the body, we call it a Tai Chi creature. Now, this creature can do Tai Chi Chuan. So once you start to develop the creature, then when you begin learning form, You turn left, you do ward off, you do everything. It has some meaning. It is actually Tai Chi Chuan. Without the body, going through the shapes of the form is what we call empty form. It's just empty. It could be a dancer or anyone that can articulate their body, could control and copy those movements, and it would look the same, but there's nothing inside. It's empty. No essence, and the reason is that there's no chi, the dantian, and no mobilization of the chi, because you haven't done the standing or the fundamentals enough. So they both develop with power. There is no one exercise answer. Many people question me and ask as if I can give them the golden ticket. It's quite simple. An entire system works together and integrates together to develop the skills. There is no one exercise on its own. If only it was that simple, it would be so easy. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Okay.
John Gibbons asks, can you detail the meaning of setting the shoulder in more detail?
Setting the shoulder, I won't reveal the method in a questions and answers format. It's just the words that I use for the classic sinking the shoulder. The reason why I use the word set is because it's the shoulder actually has to be where it belongs. The bones need to be in their natural place, and most people have deformed their body and their bones are not where they belong. Namely, their shoulders are also hunched forward and stuff like that, which is pretty common from wrong kung fu training, where you push your shoulders forward and down the back and things like that, and it damages your body over time. Now, working on the computer does the same thing, which is kind of funny that a so-called athletic ability gives you the same posture deformity as geeking out in front of the computer all the time. So that's a worry. Good kung fu, good training will correct your body and make your body healthy and open. It will not close the body and deform the body. So if your shoulder is not open, you cannot set the shoulder. You cannot sink the shoulder correctly. I recommend focusing on opening first. Then, if it's correct, then it will naturally be set. Trying to do something special and to pull the shoulder down or to do some fancy thing with the shoulder is definitely an error and will only lead you to using more li or external force. But if your shoulder is open and free and sung, it will naturally sink and set where it is supposed to. Now, of course, that sounds really easy, but it's really difficult. I've met only a very small handful of people in the world who have the shoulders correct. I recommend lots of body opening, body work, bone setting, that kind of thing to correct the skeletal structure and to release the soft tissue, as well as a lot of song gong to release the shoulders. And with time, you will find out what it means. Of course, hands-on instruction is key, getting touched by somebody who can show you the nano errors in your shoulder positioning. Goal is to have no force in the shoulders. If you look at the classic explanation of Jin, it is rooted in the feet, controlled by the waist, and expressed in the fingers. You know, they don't even mention the shoulders, okay? It's like we don't have any. So if you are using your shoulders too much, that is definitely an error. Relax, release, feng song, and allow the shoulders to sink and set. Okay.
Diego Borbino says, is swimming bad for Tai Chi? If not, what would be an acceptable swimming routine that would not impact Tai Chi training?
Okay, people are always asking about cardio training and how it goes with the Tai Chi, or lifting weights or doing push-ups or some other thing. First thing I always want to say is you must balance your own lifestyle. We all have different goals. Not everyone wants to be crazy good at Tai Chi and that's all that matters to them. Some people want to look sexy on the beach too, so they need to do sit-ups. You must balance your lifestyle in accordance with your goals. I cannot do that for you. Nobody can do that for you. However, swimming, in my opinion, absolutely no problem. It's an excellent exercise. If there was only one cardio exercise I would recommend for someone who practices Tai Chi to do, that would be it. Slow impact, it doesn't build a whole lot of tension, you don't compress the joints, you even decompress the joints. I think it's an all-round win. So however much swimming you want to do is good. Now, of course, we don't have hours in the day. You have to choose You must prioritize. Are you getting your full routine? Which part of the routine is more important to you? Is the fitness more important to you, or is the gym more important to you? What do you want? And make your goal accordingly. But swimming is great, highly recommended for sure. One of the best exercises. Okay.
Gurpreet asks, do you feel Fa should be a regular part of join hands or push hands? And further beyond that, is expressing Fa something one should be practicing within their regular practice of Tai Chi?
The purpose of pushing hands is to develop the skill set of stick, adhere, join, and follow. That is what it is. That's basically it, period, the end. So if you're trying to Fa without stick, adhere, join, follow, then that is definitely wandering down the wrong path. Now, stick, adhere, join, follow is a much higher skill set than Fa. So if you have genuine stick, adhere, join, follow, not just following the hand, sticky hand stuff, genuine stick, adhere, join, follow, then Fa is at hand at any time. And I literally mean at any time, at will. So of course you're going to Fa sometimes, why not? Fa is how we express that we have achieved stick, adhere, join, follow. It is how we express power. It is how we express that we have mobilized the Qi in the body. Fa is classically demonstrated by internal masters because, one, it looks spectacular and you can see it, because most internal skills are hidden. By definition, they're inside, they're difficult to see. Fa is easy to see. And two, it demonstrates the movement of the Qi, the development of the najin, the internal jin, in a way that outsiders can see manifestation. So it's a fundamental skill. It's also a safe way to train your power without striking or breaking your training partner, which is not wise because you won't have a training partner tomorrow. When you just shoot them away and they come back and it's okay, it's good, safe training, it's polite training, we're not hurting each other. So yes, I think you should be practicing Fa. No, I do not think Fa is the goal of pushing hands, nor do I think it's one of the higher skills. It's a fundamental skill. I often say it's an entry-level skill, which some people say, what do you mean? And I mean, well, it's not an entry as in your first day of training, but it's an entry into the internal. Until you can Fa, you have not achieved the internal. It's a basic expression of internal skill. So it's an entry into the door of internal martial arts. It's fundamental, it must be trained, however, it is not the purpose of pushing hands. Pushing hands is to achieve stick, adhere, join, follow. I hope that answers. Next.
Phil Stevens asks, while standing, can you speak to the importance of releasing the psoas muscle, especially in the process of sinking the Qi?
No, I can't really. Release everything, that's the important part. I would not focus on the psoas muscle. It's a word a bit like mindfulness and fascia. It's like, it's all fascia, it's all the psoas muscle, it's all about mindfulness. I don't think any of those are correct. Everything must be released. Everything. You must release to the utmost of your capacity. And then some people come with a kind of westernized view and they say, that's bullshit. Like, of course you have to have muscular tension, otherwise you'd fall over. And it's like, thanks. You don't say. I really know. Blows my mind, that kind of speech. Of course there's some kind of musculature holding you up. So what? The purpose of training is not to analyze and to have some perfect document that we can write about which muscles are engaged. The purpose is to be as released and as strong as you humanly can. Now, in order to do that, your mind, your your drive, must release everything as much as possible. You must never think, I'm going to engage this one and release that one. It's not right. Simply release as much as possible. So that's the psoas, that's everything. it is my way to not focus on the body in the Western way, in an anatomical way. I tend to use the original jargon and the original framework of the Chinese masters and not think about it in terms of Western sports science. So simply song everything.
Mickey Boyle says, I have been striving to replace will with mind intent. Can you speak on this process? And is there a place for the will in training?
I don't think you can do anything much without will. Will is fundamental. It is one of the primary qualities of mind. I would even say it is the most important mental quality. When we're developing the character, whether it's from meditation process or any other training, and in my opinion, this is the most important. In my school, we always say character first and skill second. The most important quality of character, in my opinion, is will. The reason is very simple. With will developed, you can develop any other quality. Without will, it is difficult to develop any other quality. If you want to develop patience, but you lack will, it's very difficult to develop patience. If you want to develop compassion, but you lack will, it's very difficult to develop compassion. Will is fundamental. It's an essential quality of the mind. I don't think you can get up to train without it in the morning. You must be using all of these mental qualities together, and the first and fundamental, most primary mental quality that must be developed, embraced, and increased is definitely the will. Yeah. Build the will hard. Mind intent, well, that's E, I guess you're talking about. That is also to be developed. There are ways to do it. However, you can't do that without the will either. You can't do anything. Find out what the true will is and develop it unceasingly. Okay.
Rod Ashby asks, can you please elaborate on najin? How is it trained for as a specific jin?
None of the jins are trained for as specific jins in the sense that there's a method or a technique to develop that jin. It doesn't work like that. They are all integrated into the entire skill set. Now, there are ways to na, like you could, very basic na would be like some kind of triangulation on many vectors to trick or trap your partner. That works, but in my opinion, that is not the na jin that we must strive for. The more song you are, the more released you are, the better your najin will be. Now, song is not a quality that can be achieved. It is only a relative quality. Meaning song, you cannot ever be song. You are only song compared to the person you're touching, or not song compared to the person you're touching. Those of you that have been around and touched a few high hands, if you're so lucky, will know that what you can feel great, song, my training's wonderful. And then the moment you touch somebody with high skill, you're stiff as a board. You are sure you are released in song. You're standing there, no tension, you touch them very lightly, you're just touching the follicles, and bang, you're stiff. This is because song is relative. So when you touch a high hand and they're many times more song than you, the moment you make contact, you become stiff. In other words, you become seized to them. You become stiff to them. They don't need to use triangulation, vectors, or any trickery, because you're like a piece of wood. You're like a piece of furniture. But they are free. This is one of the skills that song gives you. Now, of course, it's not song alone that gives it to you. You need ting, you need all the other things. But it's probably the primary quality that develops najin. So to think of najin too much in technical terms, in my opinion, is an error. There are some tricks along the path in any given system which help you to get the correct vectors or to get some counterfeit models along the way as you progress further and further. But in my experience, when you reach a certain level of song, when you just touch somebody, they are instantly nad. They're instantly stuck, and the reason is simply because their song cannot compare to yours. Now, if you touch somebody with the same level of song, it's not going to happen like that. But that's how Kung Fu works. It only works if you're better than the other person. Okay?
Joe Cavalier asks, what are your thoughts on Qi energy? There are so many differing opinions.
Wow. Okay, that's a broad one.
He says also, does it come up through the earth and pass through the body, then new energy comes down from above, passing through the body into the earth?
Okay, they're both kind of correct. There are different kinds of chi: heaven chi, earth chi, the chi of man, the nei chi, or the organ chi, blah, blah, blah. There's so many chis. When we say chi, like it's some kind of single thing, this is definitely misleading. The chi of acupuncture, the chi used in medicinal practices, the chi developed in martial arts are not the same. Are they connected? Absolutely, yes. Are they the same? They are not. So once again, it's difficult to answer if it's not specific. There are some people in the Tai Chi world, in the internal martial arts world, who simply don't believe in Chi. That's okay. Our experience governs our belief and our ideas. I wouldn't believe in it without experience either. However, when we simply shut something down without experience and block it out, we've blocked the road ahead of us, and that's sad because you cease development immediately. Qi is fundamental in Tai Chi Chuan. Tai Chi Chuan is all about nurturing the Qi, developing the Qi, increasing the Qi, and moving the Qi within the body. I'm not going to make a grand statement about what Qi is. I consider that an error. I've thought of it as many things over the years which are really facets of what it is, or components of what it is in terms of Tai Chi Chuan. Some people think that it's the pressure inside the body. It is not the pressure inside the body. Some people think it's the stretching of the tissue. It is not the stretching of the tissue. These are things that happen from the accumulation of Qi. I will say that Qi is intimately connected to information, and that Qi transfers information. This is probably the most fundamental thing that is essential for all the different kinds of Qi. Whether we're talking about the Qi that we accumulate in the Dantian, for martial arts, the Qi running through the meridians, the Qi that we transmit outside of the body, the Wei Qi, to affect things from a distance, all of them share this quality of transferring information. I hope that helps. I know it's not a simple answer or a translation. I prefer not to give translation type answers. We simply use the word Qi rather than replacing it with a Western word and all of the ideas we have attached to that word. Okay.
Fred Lobst says, if fun is the correct word, how do you have fun with your form practice?
I don't. Form practices work for me. Most of the time it's bitter work, and I'm usually focusing on something that I'm doing poorly, which I don't find that fun. Focusing on what you do well would probably be more fun. Focusing on what you do poorly is not the most fun thing in the world. However, it is how you get better skill. Now, having the skill, that is fun. It never gets boring. Training for the skill is fun sometimes and not fun sometimes. I find Tai Chi Chuan very fun, but I wouldn't say that I find form practice fun. I find it very rewarding. I find it definitely interesting and challenging and trying. Are these fun? They are not. Having fun 24 hours a day would be awful. It would be torture. It would be torment. You need a play of qualities, sometimes challenging, sometimes stressful, sometimes fun. They're all part of the dance of life. If we just have fun all the time, it would become torture. Anything that is maintained becomes torture. A massage is pleasant for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, even 2 hours. But if you get massage for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, I guarantee it will be agonizing torture. So I don't think it's right to want a single quality out of everything. I hope that answers the question. That was a little difficult for me. I'm not geared towards thinking in terms of fun. It's not really something that comes into my mind. I hope that helps.
Mario asks, you have said the whole body is a hand, Tingjin. Can you refer to this idea? Maybe he means explain it.
Okay, well, I only copy that saying from previous generations. The whole body as a hand is a classic Tai Chi Chuan saying. It simply means wherever you touch a high hand in Tai Chi Chuan, they have control. You touch my hand, I control. You touch my chest, I control you. You have my back, you grab my back, you think you have my back, but my back has your arm. So the whole body can can seize, can control, can far from any point in the body. So the whole body is coordinated. The whole body can receive, the whole body can hua, can transform, the whole body can seize, the whole body can far, can attack, the whole body can da, the whole body can strike. So all the qualities of the art manifest through the entire body, as opposed to just in the hand. Like I can only strike with the hand. If you touch anywhere, that point can strike back immediately. This is one of the manifestations of achieving some Tai Chi Chuan skill. Now, it's incredibly practical for all obvious reasons, and it's a lot of fun, referring back to the previous question. The way to achieve this is to follow the method correctly and not to use Li or external force or stupid force, which is usually caught up in the shoulders and arms, releasing the whole body, not focusing on individual muscles, but releasing everything, treating the whole body the same. When you treat the whole body the same, when you achieve the skill will manifest in the whole body. Therefore, the whole body is the hand.
Andre asks, when you say sinking the chi, does it happen through relaxation, or do you recommend following the breath or visualizations, etc.? And we also have a question from someone else about the order of release when practicing Neigong.
Read the order of release. I suggest that you train with somebody that will tell you that. I'm not going to teach that. This is more for answering general questions rather than specific questions about my method in that regard. Depends whose method you're training. Training somebody else's method, you follow exactly the way they say to do it. If you're following my method, you follow exactly the way I teach. You must follow your teacher's method. The disease of Kung Fu is chop suey, mixing methods. Do not mix the methods, follow your teacher's method. Okay, what was the first part? Sorry.
About visualizations,
Okay.
Following the breath, and sinking the chi.
So once again, you must follow the method of your teacher. However, I do not recommend visualization. I strongly recommend not practicing visualization. It is my opinion that we must practice to understand, comprehend, and penetrate reality and not increase mental fabrication and delusion. Now, visualization by its very essence, by its very definition, is delusion. It's imagination. It is not real. I think you should work directly with what we have here and now and release it. So the more you song and release, the more things will sink down. The reason they sink down is simple, because gravity is ever present. If I was to take this glass of water, which I can't stop drinking because I never talked this much in my whole life, and now my mouth is dry, and I was to drop it, let go of it, or release it, it would go down, it would shatter upon the table. I do not need to will it to go down. I do not need to visualize it to go down or anything else. It will simply happen because of gravity. So anything that we release will sink. This is all. If you maintain your structure and release, things sink down. Now, where you rest the mind will increase the energy to sink to that direction, or to settle into that direction. Resting the mind is not the same as imagining or visualizing. It's more an aspect of the sentient gate or feeling gate in the body. Neigong is about the sentient gate, not about visualization. None of the practices I teach involve visualization for Neigong. Some meditation does. Even in meditation, I don't recommend it very regularly. We want to stay away from too much fabrication. If we fabricate too regularly, if we become extremely skilled at visualization, I've seen this, you become so good at it that you no longer know the difference between the fabricated mental world and the real world. And that is, by definition, a mental problem. So I suggest staying with reality, staying with the body and the mind the way it is now, and focus on soul.
Charles Adkins says, could you speak for a bit about the nature and importance of integrity in your art?
Okay, yes, this is something I talk about regularly. I guess you must have come to one of my workshops or something, but in my opinion, integrity is the fundamental mental quality to go along with will, which can predict the achievement of skill or lack thereof. Now, more important than that, it is a fundamental quality of your character, which is far more important than skill. But in accordance with training, okay, so pushing hands is to develop stick it here, join, follow. No butting in, no disconnecting. Now, I talk about this in terms of to butt in is the fight response, and disconnecting is the flight response, which are two fundamental qualities wired into our brain and our body. And Tai Chi training is about transcending both of those so that you can have balance and stick it here, join, follow, yin yang Tai Chi Chuan, and not butting in and disconnecting. So only with true integrity can you achieve this. German Ching talks about investing in loss, which to me means we must invest in the method as it is handed down to us by our teacher. And we must not invest in winning in the given moment. To win is to do the method correctly. So usually these things are going to confront us in partner practice in pushing hands more than they do in solo practice. It's easy to think you're song released, you're comfortable when you're by yourself, but the second somebody touches you and you're stiff and you're fighting or you're disconnecting, you realize, well, I wasn't what I thought I was, that visualization didn't work. So if the exercise is to yield and turn right, and you do the exercise 1,000 times, and you yield and turn right 1,000 times, and you're trying to follow the method correctly, that is integrity. That is sincerity towards the art. Now, if the exercise is to yield and turn right and somebody pushes on you and you spaghetti fist wiggle worm out of it just so you win, but you didn't do the exercise, that is lack of integrity, that is lack of sincerity towards the art. If you brace and force and don't yield and don't turn right and win through strength, that is lack of integrity, that is lack of sincerity towards the art. Now, these two examples are what people do. Pretty much everybody will do one of those two. In other words, they butt in or they run away. So they respond with fight or flight. Now, when you respond correctly, trying to stick it here, join, follow, maintain structure, maintain sung, and maintain the art, it's likely in the beginning that you will lose or that you'll be pushed. Now you do it again and again. That's called investing in loss, or more accurately, investing in doing it correctly. Every time you invest in doing it correctly, you are building in your neurology, in your habit, in who you are, the Tai Chi Chuan response, even if you lost. Now, every time you run away to win or butt in and use strength to win, you're building the opposite of Tai Chi Chuan into your neurology, into your habit, into who you are. And yeah, you're winning on the short term, but you are losing on the long term because your skills will not develop correctly and you are not developing integrity or sincerity. Okay.
Phil Aruma asks, the Theravada 4 frames of reference, do you use them in your Taiji practice?
The 4 frames of reference, so we have mindfulness or sati of body is the first one. Of course, we must be mindful of the body, of feelings, and so on all the way through. Now, it's like this. We can use the Theravada breakdown to describe something. It's a method for describing something and a method of practice. In Tai Chi Chuan, we have a method for describing something and a method of practice. So we focus on song, which is obviously a physical body quality, and mindfulness you cannot feel without mindfulness. You need ting or mindfulness, the knowing quality to do it. No, I don't specifically use the Theravadan terms or structure when I teach Tai Chi Chuan. I use the Tai Chi Chuan structure and terms when I teach Tai Chi Chuan, and I use the Theravadan ones, including the frames of reference, when I teach Theravadan meditation. Is there an overlap? Absolutely. Truth is truth, and it doesn't matter which tradition you practice, truth is truth. I don't like to get too caught up in sectarian differences or specific parts like that. I care about the practice. I don't care which tradition a good practice comes from. An authentic practice works, period. That is all. The belief system and the ideology and everything that comes along with it is of no concern or interest to me at all. So yes and no. It's there because it's a universal truth. Do I talk about it, focus on it, think about it in that way when I practice Tai Chi Chuan? I do not. There was a time when I did many years ago when I mixed more than I do now, but experience has taught me not to mix the exercises ever. I never mix. This is something I'm going to talk about now, I guess. So mixing the exercises is like the most natural thing for a human being to do, because we all think that we're clever, that we're smart, and that we can work it out. And we all suspect that our teacher's not telling us exactly and that he must secretly be doing this or that. So we apply our very limited intelligence to a problem that is much greater than us, and when we should actually have faith in the transmission and the intelligence of generations before us, not single people, but many people cultivating to a high level. So I always tell my students never mix the exercises. This was told to me by one of my friends who's also a teacher, who's also a Kung Fu father. He said, Adam, don't mix the exercises. Now, until that time, I had been mixing the exercises and I had some skill. But when I stopped mixing the exercises, my rate of advancement increased hugely. I started progressing so much faster by stopping to think that I was clever. You're not clever. I'm not clever. None of us are clever enough. The problem of Tai Chi Chuan is it's fast and great, far beyond any of us. So we must keep the exercises separate. The way I like to talk about it is to say, Tai Chi Chuan is like a beautiful diamond. Multifaceted diamond. There are 100 different facets, all the different skills and exercises. When we train one exercise, we polish one facet of the diamond patiently over time. So when we're standing post, we're polishing, sinking the Qi facet, and so on and so on. Song Gong is polishing the Song facet. When we polish them each separately, never mixing, not mixing exercises. This means not mixing the exercises within that one system. Now, mixing exercises from another system, that is just totally like way off track. But even within one system, we don't mix. Polish one facet, polish the next facet. Over time, as we receive a complete transmission of a system, because you can only develop skill through a system, not through some singular methods from a system, we polish each facet of the diamond, and each facet reflects off the other facets to increase its radiance. One facet makes the other facet more beautiful, more radiant, and you end up with a priceless jewel. The priceless jewel is called Tai Chi Chuan. Now, when we don't do that, and we mix the exercises, it's like polishing the whole thing at once, and we round off all the edges, and we destroy the gem. It becomes worthless junk, and there are no facets to reflect, and you lose all radiance. So this is what people do when they mix the exercises. Basically, they think they've worked it out beforehand, so they fabricate a result and end up with counterfeit skills. It's very difficult, and it takes sincerity and integrity to be so honest with yourself and simply to follow the method and not mix the exercises. I highly recommend it if you can endeavor and develop the will to do it and to follow the method correctly.
Joe Cavalier says, do you have to do your online training to relearn your Yang style form from the beginning? And do you have online training that's geared for push hands principles for advanced students?
Nobody has to do anything. If you want to follow my method, yes, you have to do it from the beginning. Most people that have done this, most of my senior students have been doing Tai Chi Chuan longer than I've been alive. They already knew many forms, and last thing they wanted to do was learn a new form. I understand completely. All of them have ended up letting go of their old forms and embracing the form that I teach 100%. It's not because of the sequence, any sequence would do. However, it's because of how you move and how you make the shapes. Form is not practicing a whole bunch of techniques in a row and then developing the internal skills separately. This is totally incorrect, and many people try to do this. Like, I'm going to use the internal skills of, they come to a workshop and go, I'm going to learn how to Fajin from Adam, and then I'm going to put it into my Yang style or my Chen fist or whatever else I do, and it doesn't work like that. It cannot work like that. It will never work like that. If you end up using the internal methods that I teach, your form will end up looking the same as the form that I teach. If it doesn't, you're not using the methods, because it is the internal methods that make the form how it is. So they cannot be separated. It is the way the chi is mobilized in the form that makes your shape the way it is, that makes your movement the way it is, that is applied in the pushing hands. They cannot be separated. In the same way, many people ask me some people say, when are you going to teach us to Fajin? And I can't help but laugh hysterically every time, because every single step is teaching you to Fajin. Every single step is teaching you Fajin. Every single step is teaching you all the skills, because they are an integrated system. All the facets of the diamond reflect off each other to generate the valuable jewel in the end. You cannot take one part and separate it. Advanced pushing hand skills are definitely taught in the course. However, it is impossible to do them without the fundamentals. And I'll even say it's impossible to do the ones that I'm teaching with the fundamentals of another system. That would be what we call chop suey and just mixing things, which I certainly do not recommend. It always leads to that cheap junk that you get in American Chinese restaurants, right? And we call it that for a reason. It's what you should throw away. Okay.
Andreas asks, can you please explain more on the 6 levels of Song?
That is an entire lecture. I'm writing about that in the book that I'm writing currently, so I don't really want to go into it. Please forgive me, simply because I don't want to give away all the same information now, then I won't be able to sell the book later. So I definitely want to sell the book. So I will decline on that one. Sorry.
Yes, and now that we're at 9 o'clock, maybe one more question. Fred Lobst says, can you tell us a story about Wong Chen Xin?
Oh, well, I'm not a historian. Okay, let's think about it. Those of you that know me personally will know that I am totally useless when it comes to even knowing names in lineage masters and famous Kung Fu people. I'm hopeless. I spent my time standing and doing the work rather than reading about it, so I really don't have much. So yeah, once again, I think we need another last question. Sorry.
Okay. Peter Bull says, in Tai Chi, should we be putting much attention on the upper dantian? What is its role in this art?
Okay, that's interesting. So first I want to talk about the dantian in a general way, because it's another one of those words, people throw around these words, which are technical terms that have technical meaning, and they're often not understood, and that's just the way it is in any field of study. So some people think that the dantians are like the chakra, or that they correlate with the chakra. Like the lower dantian is the navel chakra, and the navel chakra is the lower dantian. That's a pretty common sort of view. It's like that mixing systems business again. Chop suey coming at us again. No, they are not the same thing. They are not. You are born with chakras. You are not born with dantian. The dantian must be developed. So elixir, field, right? So yes, you're born with a field. There is space down there. There's something down there, but there's no elixir. The elixir must be developed. It must be cultivated over time until you have a dantian. So in Tai Chi Chuan, we mainly focus on developing the lower dantian. Now, there are specific ways to do this, and it's actually more advanced than most people think. Generally, what I've observed is people talking about the dantian, and they're usually imagining a point, maybe the chi high point, like below the navel, like an acupuncture point. That is not the dantian. Or maybe they're just talking about the waist, which is excellent. The waist must be used. It's very important for Tai Chi Chuan, but it is not the dantian. So you tend to see a lot of these two things, and really that is not the true dantian. The dantian must be developed through separate exercises. So even more so for the upper dantian, they're not innate in that quality. So no, I would say no. The Shen must rise up, must be contained within. These could be correlated to the upper dantian, but I would definitely not focus on a point in the middle of the head while you're practicing Tai Chi Chuan. These are extremely sophisticated methods and high-level techniques. It's like people asking about Shen and this kind of thing, and they're still stuck in Li in the body. You have to get through Li and begin to understand Jin. This is the first level. Level 1 is understanding Jin. It's important to understand this. Level 1 is understanding Jin. If you can't produce Jin freely at will, like don't even worry about anything beyond Jin. Start worrying about Yi and Qi and Shen. It's craziness. Like, yeah, way beyond pay grade. I mean, almost nobody's at level 1. We need to train to level 1. Yeah. That's what's happened to Tai Chi Chuan. Level 1 is now considered a high level. Someone has Jin and we think they're good. That's sad. It's level 1. Yep. So we don't need to worry about Yi so much, Qi much less, and Shen much less again. So upper dantian being concerned with Shen, I don't mean to cut the question off, but I think that it's most important to be practical and to have knowledge based on how we can function and develop skill, because just being able to talk about things really serves nobody. And there's enough people doing that already, talking about things way beyond their pay grade, which inevitably every time the information is wrong, even if they think it's right and they're trying their best, because we can't talk about things we haven't experienced. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it, but excellent question. Okay, I think that's time for today. Thank you for jumping in. If you like this and enjoy this, leave some comments. And if you don't, that's cool, whatever, let's just see. If people liked it, maybe we'll do it again sometime, because this is more practical than me answering private questions every day. All right, thanks for joining. Thank you.